Keep Nintendo weird, everybody. Man, I am so thrilled to be here with you today. A little bit discombobulated, if I'm being honest. I just got done with a day of work, and things have been crazy. We're getting in. I mean, look, we're smack dab in the middle of December right now. It is, holiday shopping season and all of this. My wife and I feel like we have never been as unprepared for holiday shopping as we are this year. Like, we're 10 days out now at the time this goes live. And we're just like, we're still shopping. It's like crazy, man. So, and then like Hanukkah stuff has happened with my family already. There's like a split Hanukkah Christmas situation going on with my family. We won't get into it here. Complicated stuff. But, in any case, holiday shopping has been nuts. I've got a full schedule today. I've got to record stuff. I'm streaming on Twitch later today. We got shopping to do, and it's just, the day job. It's just go, 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 man. So hopefully, you there on the internet listening and or watching this podcast are having a good go of it, having a good December. We have been playing Mission in Snowdriftland here on the YouTube channel. If you're watching this on youtube.com/allinpodcast, we've been doing that every day, and that's been a lot of fun. We are getting into the Christmas spirit. I mean, like, the Christmas spirit is definitely there. I don't want to take anything away from Christmas. I feel like it's easy for us to get older and like more cynical about Christmas, but I made this point a couple of times this past week, and I want to talk about this because I was talking about this with my wife. Christmas is the one holiday that it is simply about joy. You know what I mean? Like, even Thanksgiving is not really about, like, you're hanging out with your family, you're eating and stuff like this. There's like a message of being thankful. That's all great. We love that. I do love Thanksgiving. But Christmas is about just being happy, It's about hanging out with the people you love and giving and just being happy together. And I don't know, like, I think it's easy for me to get older and more cynical about that and more removed from it. And, I don't have kids yet either. So that's certainly also a factor. But I mean, I just think that there's something kind of beautiful about the underlying message of Christmas. I'm trying to get more into that. I talked about this also a little bit on my good friend Sean Capri's podcast, We the Gamercast, which I want to point you guys to. I was on a recent episode of that show, just a great show and a great conversation. I love Sean Capri so much. We've had him on All In the past, and it was a total honor to go on We the Gamercast. So I definitely want to point you guys in that direction. Support Sean, support We the Gamercast. The conversation we talked about, like, I talked that dude's ear off about a million different things, and we got into some hashtag real talk, I think, in there too. It was like a little mini therapy session, but hey, it was great, man. I think if you guys go and listen to that, I really hope that you get something out of that. I had a really great time doing that. Total treat, total honor. So anyway, We the Gamercast, I was on that this past week. That was a lot of fun. Trying to think, everything is such a blur, man. Like, we're getting into Game of the Year talks, at All In. We're ramping up. We're doing our Game of the Year episode actually because we happen to have an episode going on the 1st, like literally on New Year's Day. So we're doing our Game of the Year talks then for our big kind of blow up awards episode. Kind of, we're positioning it, we're framing it like, hey, the year is over and we can look back at 2021 in totality because it's actually all over now. At the time you're listening to this, the Indie World Showcase has probably already happened. Hashtag Seth was right, by the way. I predicted that on Twitter, and everybody said I was a fool. Everybody said I was foolish for thinking we were going to get an Indie World Showcase. Guys, can I talk to you? Of course we were. Of course we were getting it. Guys, there's always one in mid-December. Come on, guys. Anyway, I don't know what happened during it. You guys do. I don't. But I'm hoping to see, I swear, I promise you it is, let me see if I can just prove this to you right now. It is, can you see that on my phone? Is it going to show you? It's a little bit, if you're watching the video version, it's a little weird right now. I don't know if it's going to, it is the 14th, okay? I don't know if it focused enough for you to see that. It is December 14th. I promise I have no inside knowledge. I'm hoping to see Neon White. I'm thinking Neon White's probably going to get a shadow drop. Somebody, I think Shy Guy City on the All In Discord shouted out Omori. I'm hoping Omori is there. That'd be great. The Nintendo dads, Justin Masson, also hashtag Justin was right. Give Justin Masson his due. Also, Justin and I are cut like so much from the same cloth, man. It's crazy that he and I have never podcasted together yet. Because he and I are so cut from the same cloth. We're always just like talking about kind of like market analysis and like predictions things, and everybody's calling us crazy, but then we're always right because of course we are. Anyway, I'm totally off the rails, guys. And then the Game Awards happened, and that was like a whole mess. We broke that all down on All In. Let me get on track, guys. Let me get on trail, I guess. The snowboard trail, even. I don't know what I'm doing. So Snowboard Kids, that's what we're talking about today. We're going to be hanging out with Ben Bertoli, the great Ben Bertoli of the Memory Card podcast, and a million other things. Like we're going to get into it. He's been doing like the freelance journalism thing. He's a writer, a historian. He's written a children's book. He's designed a game, like a card game. I mean, just an impressive guy. There were a lot of people who were really excited for this episode in the Discord and in the community. People who are big fans of Ben Bertoli, like myself. Big fan of Memory Card. I think Memory Card is kind of like very much cut from the same cloth as this show. So just a total treat to talk to Ben. And this is a great episode, you guys. Like one of the things that I was really kind of hoping to tap into with this game, Snowboard Kids, well, the Snowboard Kids series, we kind of talk about all of them. I was really kind of hoping to tap into that sort of like nostalgic passion with Ben, and I think we totally did. And it's a great conversation. Ben is a great guy. What a treat to have him on the show. Nothing but love and respect, and we even like got to talk about Ko Takeuchi a little bit, which something very near and dear to my heart. I will say, so if you're watching the video version of this, if you're listening to this as the audio version, as the podcast, which a lot of you do, you're not going to notice, obviously, because it's just an audio. But if you're watching the video version, Ben does not appear on video. We were strictly audio. So the video supplement to this will be provided by, oh gosh, let me not lie, N64 Archive, the fine folks at N64 Archive on YouTube, and you'll, of course, their full credit to them. It is not my footage, it is their footage of Snowboard Kids 2, their long play of that, and full links to everything for them is going to be in the episode description. So definitely show your support for N64 Archive, who is providing the footage of Snowboard Kids 2 that is going to be playing during this video. So anyway, with all that being said, guys, it's going to be a great episode. It's the perfect time to talk about Snowboard Kids. It has been on the KNW list for the longest time. I've had it on the KNW list since the beginning. And here we are, finally talking about Snowboard Kids. And who better to talk about it with than the great Ben Bertoli. 5-star reviews if you guys if you guys like the show and you want to drop a 5-star review on iTunes, I will shout you out on the show. We don't have any new reviews to shout out yet. But, hey, look, if you want to shout us out, give us a review, 5 stars, drop some words. I will shout it out right here on the show. And I also wanted to announce here just real quick before we get into it, I'm going to go on a holiday break with this show after this episode. So this is kind of my last episode of Keep Nintendo Weird for 2021. And then we're going to take a little bit of a break. Just if you can't tell how like frazzled I am, my life is just a little crazy right now. So we're going to take a bit of a break, and then we're going to come back in the new year with your regularly scheduled KNW. I think we're going to do things a little bit different next year. I don't know how rigidly we're going to stick to a schedule. I'm thinking about live streaming KNW. Like I'm thinking about a lot of things with KNW, and of course your feedback is always welcome. DMs open, my personal Twitter account at $2hero, the KNW Twitter account at KNW Podcast. If you have any suggestions for games, B, guests, or C, things you would like to see like change with the show, just let me know. Reach out. I am absolutely listening. Comment here on YouTube. I mean, whatever, absolutely listening. This is my baby. This is my little experiment, and it's just a passion project. So anyway, all of the rigmarole aside, I've wasted enough of your time. Let's get into it, guys. Let's welcome the great Ben Bertoli of Memory Card to the show. Let's talk Snowboard Kids because it's awesome and it's winter and it's just a fantastic game. And let's keep Nintendo weird. All right, this is going to be a good one, you guys. I'm so stoked to be hanging out with the writer, video game historian, and co-host of the wonderful Memory Card podcast, the one and only Ben Bertoli. Ben, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you here, Ben. It's as a fan, and you know, we have fans in our community. It is an exciting moment to have you here on the show. So, and to talk about a game like Snowboard Kids here in December. It's nice and chilly outside. It's the perfect season to talk about a game like this. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's the perfect season to play a game like this. Although, as you'll soon find out when we talk about it, Snowboard Kids is a perfect game to play year-round, whenever you feel the need.
I agree. I have a hot take about Snowboard Kids. I'll kind of like set this. We'll do the kind of like YouTuber clickbait thing to like the hook, and then we'll leave them waiting. My hot take is that Snowboard Kids 2 is a better Mario Kart style game than Mario Kart 64. That's my hot take.
Okay.
So that's my hook. But before we get into Snowboard Kids, Ben, tell us a little bit about yourself. I think a lot of folks are probably that are listening are probably familiar with your stuff, but for the heathens that may not be, tell us a little bit about what you're up to.
Well, I am a full-time teacher, actually, who kind of moonlights as a video game journalist and a video game historian. I say that in quotes. You know, I don't have a degree or anything, but I've been, writing about video games and video game history for a long time now, probably 7 or 8 years, and it just kind of like built itself into this little side hustle for me. And then I put out a kid's book about, the 101 best video games to play before you grow up. So that was a big accomplishment. And I've just kind of been writing about games. And in 2019, I started a video game history podcast called Memory Card, as you mentioned, with my friend Push Dustin, who lives in Japan. And we've just been, pumping out seasons, 2 seasons every year since then, and kind of expanding our reach with some written content coming next year. And I've just been working on all sorts of projects, pitching some new stuff, getting rejected as per usual, but getting some good responses as well.
Good stuff. Written content. That's exciting because I think another thing that folks may recognize your name by like a byline or something. You popped up on IGN, Kotaku, and Polygon, and I mean, you've done kind of the freelance journalism thing as well. I actually, when I thought to reach out to you, spoiler alert, guys, there's not a whole lot of Snowboard Kids dialogue happening on the internet. So I actually came upon the idea to invite you on the show when I rediscovered the piece that you wrote for Kotaku about Snowboard Kids 2.
I had a feeling that might have been it.
Yeah, which was like, because that was the kind of thing when I approach Keep Nintendo Weird episodes, I don't necessarily, I look for passion, and I look for people who like are passionate about the product or the game that we're talking about, and that comes through in your piece when you're talking about renting it from Blockbuster and the old video store and stuff like this. And I'm like, yes, this is exactly the vibes that I look for in Keep Nintendo Weird. So that was why I reached out to you specifically. Just a great piece. I'll link to that in the episode description so you guys can read that. It's great stuff. But so people might know you from that. Memory Card, of course, is huge. It's actually, Memory Card is kind of like a little bit, I've had a lot of inspirations for when I started this show, but Memory Card is kind of one of them. I got to be honest. It's kind of cut from a similar cloth. I mean, you guys are kind of like tapping into weird, unappreciated video game history, I think, in a way that I kind of tried to. You guys are much more professional about it.
Yeah, we do a lot of research. Yeah, I can see that. And I mean, we try our best to kind of dig into games, consoles, characters that, you know, people have never heard of, or maybe just like, you know, a certain version of something that people don't know about. And I always worry that at some point we're going to like run out of content or, you know, really interesting topics. But then I like discover a new game and I'm like, oh man, like how did I not know this existed? This is so weird. You know, I want to dig into this. And, you know, a lot of times I think, oh, there's probably not enough information on this. But then you start looking into who developed the game, who published the game, you know, when did it come out, who did the music, and then it's like, wow, you know, you've got a whole episode, you've got like this super deep rabbit hole to go down. So
right,
I really enjoy that aspect of it, and I'm glad that we could, you know, be an inspiration for other people. The Memory Card podcast was actually inspired by a Polygon podcast that was called The History of Fun. So. That's I was just like, well, it's cool. You just focus on one topic, and you kind of have someone who's the expert who has all the knowledge, and everyone else just is along for the ride. So
yeah, I love that, and I love the notion of like podcasts inspiring other podcasts too, like the kind of like taking things from one place or having an idea spin off of another idea. So yeah, always really cool to talk to like-minded folks. Ben, I gotta ask you something really specific before we even get into Snowboard Kids. I am so incredibly jealous of the Ko Takeuchi profile picture, and I have got to ask how that came about. What's the story there?
So back when I covered a weekend for Kotaku, must have been 2-3 years ago, I did a whole piece that was just over Ko's art. Because he draws memes and he draws like Seinfeld and, you know, like Naruto and whatever. He draws basically whatever he wants, but he does it all in his signature, very like cute style that people have seen in WarioWare and Rhythm Heaven and stuff like that.
Rhythm Heaven, yeah.
And basically when I posted it, he reached out and said like, hey, thanks for doing this article on me, but also like you need to go through and put like a tag on every single picture that says like it's my property.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, like totally, like that's, yeah, I'll do that. And he was just super nice and just asked me, you know, like, you know, he thanked me for writing it again and like asked, you know, what was my favorite game that he had worked on, and we just got to talking. And you know, I don't think it was anything I ever requested him to do. I think maybe in the piece I'd mentioned like, you know, that he just draws, sometimes he draws like YouTube celebrities and journalists and stuff. And I was like, you know, ooh, draw me next, you know, not thinking it would ever come to fruition. And he actually drew me, and then he drew me again, like a couple of weeks later, which I think is the one that's in my profile picture. If you go to my website, which is just benbertoli.com, my bio picture is also one by him. So yeah, that's my weird.
Cool
and every now and then he just pops in to talk to me in like the Twitter DMs and said, you know, like ask how I'm doing, and you know, am I gonna visit Japan? And
oh my gosh,
yeah, I know. And he's like, we should play WarioWare online with each other. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, we should. But
come on, man,
that's never happened.
How
I know,
cool is
I know.
that?
Oh, it's so cool.
Oh.
Yeah, I it's very surreal.
When I saw, because I was like, I know I recognize this. And then, I saw on your website, like the signature, the Ko, and I'm like, no way, you know. Oh, how cool is that, man? What a cool story.
Well, I'm glad no one ever brings that up, because I think either they don't know about him, you know, because he's well known, but not like, whoa, like, you know, he's not like Akira Toriyama or anything.
Sure.
Or they think it's just some character that just happens to look like me. I mean, yeah, my profile picture before was a picture of Tony from Mario Golf, who just happens to look like me. And, you know, people are like, wow, that's some good like fan art of you. And I'm like, no, that's just Tony.
That's just a guy.
Maybe they think that picture he drew was just some guy who looks like me.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, people may not know who he is or may not be familiar with his work, but actually you probably are. Like if you've played WarioWare, you actually are familiar with his art. So
yeah.
one of those unsung heroes, I feel like, people who deserve more recognition. So
yeah.
Anyway, thanks for sharing that. I was really curious about that, and also incredibly jealous. If Ko winds up listening to this and he wants to draw me, hey, look, I'll welcome it. Absolutely.
Your Twitter string of tweets the next few days is just going to be different shots of you.
Yeah.
different poses. Oh,
just
look
just
at
different
this.
poses. Hey,
Wow.
Ko,
Look,
yeah,
this is me
I'll
riding
just
a bike, popping a wheelie.
Innocuously tag Ko in those and just see what happens. Who knows? Maybe you'll DM me. Anyway, we're way off the rails. Ben, let's talk some Snowboard Kids. Set
right.
the stage for us. For those who may not know, because I imagine that some people listening to this probably know, but the vast majority. What I hope to do with this show is to introduce people to these weird Nintendo games that they may not have played or heard of before. So set the stage for us. What is Snowboard Kids?
So Snowboard Kids is it's kind of like a racing competitive snowboard game that is, kind of akin to Mario Kart in the fact that you're just trying to get from the start line down to the bottom of the mountain, and then you take a ski lift back to the top. And you're using items to, attack each other or to boost yourself forward. And it's just about, being first, pulling off sick tricks and getting coins and, carving all the different sweet slopes. And it's also about children whose noses are roughly the size of their entire head, which is important to note. Like, the art style is it's almost like a newspaper comics. Like, it almost has that look to it.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought that up. I have literally compared it to Ziggy. Straight up to Ziggy.
Right. I forget, I think it's the Jeep from Popeye who like looks over stuff and has that big nose hanging down.
Right.
Right. It's kind of like that. So it has a very cute style. And I think it's just kind of one of the unsung heroes of the Nintendo 64 era. The Nintendo 64 has one of the smallest libraries in Nintendo history, but there are still, games that people overlooked. And I think Snowboard Kids as a series is one of those because,
It's weird, too, because there was a little bit of a moment there with snowboarding games, especially when you're talking about the late 90s. Like, you started to see kind of more and more snowboard games, but none of them were like Snowboard Kids. Like, none of them had that sense of style, that kind of like cutesy, very sort of Japanese, doesn't take itself seriously whatsoever,
right.
just completely crazy and over the top. Like, I look at some of like 1080 snowboarding is not
right.
whatsoever.
Yeah, they really I don't know, they did not care about the realistic appeal or the proportions of the humans. Well, at least until they came out with the DS game later on.
Oh gosh, we don't talk about the DS one.
It'll pop up from time to time, but it's definitely not the best in the series. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that they definitely put kind of like a wacky spin on it. And, I don't know exactly what the inspirations for games beyond that were, but I like to think that maybe it had a hand in games that took things to like another level that kept it realistic, but were also goofy, kind of like SSX, Tricky.
Sure.
Which is one of my favorite games of all time. So, yeah, I mean, it definitely led there in a roundabout sort of way.
Yeah, I think when I said at the top that I thought that Snowboard Kids 2, don't get me wrong, I love the first game, but I think Snowboard Kids 2 is just like the quintessential sequel, just like everything you can do, I can do better kind of thing.
Right.
Kind of a safe sequel, but I still think Snowboard Kids 2 is the superior game overall. So when I said at the top that I thought that Snowboard Kids 2 was a better game than Mario Kart 64. Specifically, why I say that? Well, I say that for a few reasons, but I think the big thing here is that we've sort of buried the lead a little bit, because it is a Mario Kart style game where you're racing and you're getting to the finish and you're picking up items, and you have offensive items and stuff like this, just like you would in Mario Kart. But there is one major mechanical difference, being that you have to actually earn the items in Snowboard Kids. There is a level of strategy in Snowboard Kids that is not present in Mario Kart. I find that so interesting.
You have to buy the items, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the only way that you can really get coins, or the best way to get coins, is by pulling off tricks.
Yeah, that's so interesting to me. So it actually incentivizes you to do more than just go down the slope or whatever,
Right.
And indeed, even if you just try to run into an item and you don't have enough money for it, it doesn't work. You just bonk. You know, I
Right.
love that.
Yeah. It's an interesting concept because, Mario Kart at times has done coins, but the coins aren't used to buy items or just to make you go faster, like very small increments of that. And while I would say, in my opinion, that Snowboard Kids 2 is better than Mario Kart 64, I don't think it's quite as good or as in-depth as Diddy Kong Racing.
Sure.
In my mind, at least.
Yeah, I think too that the big thing for me, like mechanically, and it's not as in depth as Diddy Kong Racing. You've got the different, Diddy Kong Racing's got this big bombastic adventure mode. It's got, multiple types of vehicles and stuff like this. But I think that like what Snowboard Kids might lack in depth, it makes up for in just style. Like it might be one of the most stylish games on the Nintendo 64, and that's saying something. Like when you look at games that are, other games that are on N64 that are kind of like similarly weird and colorful, like Mischief Makers or something like this, which is another game on the K&W list. We haven't covered that game yet, but I really want to. I look at this and I'm just like, it's a snowboard game really in name only. Like the course selection is buck wild in this game.
Yeah.
They just don't care, and I love it.
Yeah, I think my favorite is the one where you get shrunk down and you have to go around Wendy's house. Yeah, I think that's my favorite course, probably.
It's really good. And then, like, it might be the, like, third course maybe that you unlock in the first one. You're just not even on snow. You're just on grass. It's just grass.
You're like coming through a castle. I think you're like in a castle and going down. Yeah, it's great. And I love so much that the game doesn't, the physics of the game don't say like, you're on grass now, you're going slower. They're just like, nah.
Right.
Like it's a surface and you're on it and you are going. Like, they don't care. And there's something very like liberating about that. Yeah.
Totally. It's very like, it's very creative. It's very freeing. It isn't about like the nuts and bolts of that. It's not trying to adhere to any like weird rules of physics or anything like that. It's just about fun,
Right.
Like, it's doing it just because it's fun to do it, and I find that so wonderful. And I like that it incentivizes through mechanics things that are fun. Like it's if the game didn't incentivize you to do tricks, then I don't think it would work nearly as well. I think that it just has that freeing, liberating feeling, and that just feeds into everything about it.
Like I would, if I'm in a snowboard game, I'm going to do tricks regardless because they look sick. But yeah, the fact that they also like earn you coins that you can use to buy items, to literally just throw a rock in front of somebody, which is very satisfying. Is fantastic. Yeah, and I love the items. I mean, I know that sounds silly to say. I mean, it's just like a rock with like a funny face on it. But if you're going full speed and you hit a rock, it just like completely destroys your momentum.
Just wipes out.
Yeah, which is like super frustrating for you, but awesome to watch your opponents do.
Much more satisfying than even like a banana in Mario Kart.
Yeah, well, because the banana peel, you kind of like spin out, but you keep momentum. The rock is just like, hard stop.
Right.
You're going down. Yeah. And the other one in, I don't know, I think it was just in Snowboard Kids 2, was the parachute that you could shoot at people, and it would just send them up into the air and they would slowly come back down. Because how frustrating, like, especially if you hit them right before a jump, they'd just be floating down forever. So.
It's a good point. I think that a lot of the items, especially offensive items in this game, are all based on the way that it directly impacts momentum.
Right.
And like, and even some of the shortcuts and stuff like this on the courses are like the trade-off of like, there's some, speaking of the grassy area, I forget the name of the course, but one of the shortcuts of that, you can jump over like a stopgap and sacrifice momentum, but take a shortcut straight down to the finish line. And so momentum is like a valuable currency in this game in a way that I don't think is present in Mario Kart, even today. Because you're going downhill. It's a snowboard game,
Right.
So I think that's really cool too. I just, what a unique take on this style. And I think that when people like when people look back at Mario Kart and they try to compare things, I mean, another thing that we haven't talked about yet is the fact that you can actually hold two power-ups, a shot and an item at the same time, which is
Right.
kind of also unique to this game,
Red and a
especially
blue.
compared. Especially compared to Mario Kart at the time, they wouldn't even try to tap into that until Double Dash, you know. So that's also unique
Right.
about Snowboard Kids.
And I think in Snowboard Kids 1, there's an item, and I don't know if it shows up in 2, I can't remember, but it literally just like smashes your opponent flat. It's like a pan or it's a stone or something.
It's like a frying
I
pan,
love that one.
yeah.
It's very cartoony, you know what I mean? Like, it kind of goes back to what you were saying about how the game doesn't really take itself like too seriously. It's just, you know, they'll throw in things like that, where characters are going to get, you know, completely smushed and then they have to recover.
Yeah.
Like Tom and Jerry kind
Totally.
of, or Looney Tunes.
Totally has that kind of like Saturday morning cartoon feel. And the game doesn't really like have like a serious story either or anything like this. It's not, you know,
No.
it's not about that. I think the only like little bit of story that we get, they're kind of like little character interactions, but there's a bit of story, I think in the game's like manual maybe, that says like they're elementary school children who live in the Canadian Rocky Mountains or something like this, and they eat, drink, and sleep snowboarding or something like that, and that's about what you get.
Yeah. I mean, in the second one, there are some fun little side things that you can do. There's one where you have to deliver mail. To different mail, but you have to like get all of them. It's like you make it to the end and they're like, you missed one, like you failed. It's like, well, I got to do that whole thing again. And then there's a couple of boss fights too, where you have to, you know, the giant snowman, you have to shoot him with items. It was really fun. So I'm glad they took a little bit of a chance and were like, hey, let's add some, you know, some new modes here to get people excited. And it, you know, the one where you get to deliver everybody's mail kind of, you know, it doesn't give you a super big backstory, but it lets you kind of explore the town a little bit.
Right.
And you can kind of tell like who lives where based on, you know, what the houses look like or the items that are outside or around. So it's just kind of fun. It's a little peek.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of like the kind of world and the characters they've set up. It's almost like in the first one, it's like they set the canvas, and then in the second one, they're like, okay, let's paint a little bit more on this. You know, it's pretty straightforward. It's not like a revolutionary leap forward in game design or whatever, but they just knew they just took it just that little step forward with Snowboard Kids 2, and that's what ultimately leans me in the Snowboard Kids 2 direction. And then of course, you know, again, we don't talk about the DS game. That was a bad dream that happened.
Now, are you aware that Snowboard Kids 2 is the third Snowboard Kids game though?
Oh, I'm not. Educate me.
Okay. Yes. So, there's actually the second Snowboard Kids game is Snowboard Kids Plus, which, and keep Nintendo weird fans, just don't freak out, for the PlayStation.
Right.
It's Japanese only. So yeah, so they released like an updated version of the original Snowboard Kids. Atlas did for the PlayStation, and it was quite the upgrade. There was, I want to say, 4 new characters. They fixed a lot of the issues that they had in the original Snowboard Kids, and in Snowboard, this is kind of silly, but in Snowboard Kids 1, when you get to the bottom of the mountain, you have to make your way to the lift that takes you to the top.
Oh, right.
In Snowboard Kids 2, when you get past the line, it automatically takes you there, and that's actually something that came from Snowboard Kids Plus.
Interesting.
So it also includes one of my favorite very weird characters, which is a character named Ruby Green, who sounds like a girl name to me. I could be wrong, but it is actually a very like large, muscle-bound 10-year-old. I'm just like ripped out of his mind, like sunglasses, like ultimate bro dude, and it's funny. His whole profile is just that like nobody will like take him seriously because nobody thinks he's actually a child because he's just like super ripped. Yeah. So that's the only Snowboard Kids game that I don't have because in my various trips to Japan, I've never been able to find it just kind of, you know, in secondhand shops. But someday I will own Snowboard Kids Plus and not be able to play it because I don't have a Japanese PlayStation. But
Oh my goodness, that's so cool. I had no idea. I always kind of assumed it was a strictly Nintendo series, I suppose. So it's cool that it had a little bit of a stint over there in PlayStation Land. That's neat. Is that your favorite character? Is Ruby Green your favorite character overall?
no, I would just say that's my favorite one that they added for that special.
Gotcha.
I really have a soft spot for Wendy from the Snowboard Kids 2, and then Mr. Dog, who was an unlockable character in the original Snowboard Kids.
Yeah.
Who is like the guy who makes all the boards. He's literally just like an anthropomorphic dog who's super nice and cute. He can ride a snowboard. So
he's just this cute dog
Big
with
fan
his
of
like
him.
tongue sticking out all the time. Yeah, he's just cute.
Yeah, I think he wears overalls. I also really like Coach.
Coach is
Snowboard
my
Kids 2 as a
guy.
penguin.
Yes, Coach is my favorite. Yep.
He's awesome too. I guess I really just want a snowboarding game that just has animals in it.
Yeah, just straight up all the weird animal characters. Coach is this kind of like, I guess it's like he's the teacher, and he's also kind of one of the slower characters. He's one of the trick types, I suppose.
Right. Right.
So but he's like just this salty, like grumpy penguin character. I love him. It's fantastic design, just so good. And I just love, you shouted out Wendy. Wendy's this kind of like nerdy inventor girl, kind of has like an EGAD from Luigi's Mansion vibe, a little bit.
Very big glasses.
Yeah, big old glasses. Yeah. And I think the main character Slash is probably the one that most people are associating Snowboard Kids with. He's the one on the box art. And he's kind of if there is a main character to Snowboard Kids, it's definitely Slash, I would say.
Oh, yeah. Big time. He's always front and center for most of the box art and the manuals and stuff like that. When I was a kid, my dad is a very good artist. He doesn't draw much anymore, but every now and then he would let us request a specific character for him to draw, like in great detail, colored in with colored pencils and stuff. And Slash was one of the ones. I think my older brother actually recommended that he draw. So somewhere, I think in my, I have a memory box that has all my old kid, stuff from when I was a kid. There's like a really cool drawing of Slash that my dad did. So I'll have to dig that out at some point.
Oh, that would be sick. If you share that on social media, I would love to retweet that on Twitter or something. You have an actual memory box, an IRL memory card, if you will.
Yeah, that's right.
Full of that stuff. How cool is that, man?
I mean, it's full of cards, that I've gotten throughout the years. So those are memory cards.
You were already working on the brand synergy even back then. It's
that's right.
Already putting it in place. I love it. So tell me a little bit about you touched on this in your Kotaku piece that I referenced earlier, but tell me a little bit about like kind of your history of Snowboard Kids, how you first came about it, like how did you discover it? And your kind of like journey with the series.
So, I mean, I can't say that I recall seeing it in stores very often, if at all. Maybe at the Toys R Us.
Me either.
When I was growing up. I mean, it wasn't like really one that was put out there. I mean, it showed up in Nintendo Power and stuff like that, and I was aware of it. And I liked the whole like extreme sports vibe that it put off. So when I went to the place where we would rent videos, which is called Old Town Video. We rented the first one, we rented the second one, and it was just one of those ones that just kind of stayed in rotation. We would always rent Snowboard Kids, and we would always rent Totoro on VHS.
Yes.
So take that home and watch some anime and play some Snowboard Kids. And what eventually happened was that Old Town Video went out of business. And my mom, being the wonderful woman that she is, swung in while we were at school and nabbed a few games. I think she got Snowboard Kids 1, Snowboard Kids 2, and Off-Road Fury, which was like an arcade racing game that was just like hardcore, like trucks, which we just like to kind of get into that. So the one that I have, and I think in the Kotaku article you can still see it, at least on Snowboard Kids, the original one. There's actually still a sticker on the back that says, that it's from Old Town Video, and I think it says how much it cost, which must have been like 60, $70 even back then.
Yeah.
So
people forget how expensive N64 games were, man.
Oh man. Yeah. Some of them got, even some Super Nintendo games
Yeah.
got up in like the $70, $75 range. It's ridiculous. So yeah, with inflation, that's well beyond $100 now.
Oh yeah, and the games are kind of pricey now today too. Like I think especially the way video games, the video game collectors market is right now. Like Snowboard Kids, I don't even know how much it goes for. It's got to be in the $60 to $80 range, if not more, loose.
Oh yeah, most likely. Yeah.
So
I was super excited when the last time I went to Japan in 2019. There was a boxed copy of Snowboard Kids 1, the Japanese version, that was like not very expensive, and I was just like psyched out of my mind that I could get. It's has got the manual, it's got the inserts, it's got everything, and so it is. It's actually on display right here behind me.
How cool!
Because I love it so much. Yeah, so that's
one of my favorites. Is it one of those Japanese N64 in the vertical boxes and everything?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, how cool is that? It's so crazy. Like, why is it that the Japanese version of N64 games are always like less expensive? I understand, like you need the Japanese N64 and stuff like this, and you can't read it if you don't speak Japanese or whatever. But I mean, for collecting purposes, like I think oftentimes the Japanese box art's even better.
Way better.
It's
man. I mean, yeah, that goes back to like NES games, Super NES games, N64 games. Even the GameCube games are awesome because they come in these tiny little, cases. The Wario World Japanese case is fantastic because it looks like a bar of gold with Wario's face on it. Yeah, no, I love it. And yeah, when I go to Japan, it's just like I bring a whole duffel bag that's empty.
Gosh.
That's just so I can just fill it. Because, you find all these insane deals and like things that you're like, how is this, But I guess in Japan, it's almost like an oversaturation thing.
Right.
Oh, well, everybody and their brother bought Pokemon Yellow. Like, you want a box copy? Yeah, sure, $7. And you're just like,
gosh. Oh my gosh. I don't know what I would do with myself.
It's dangerous. It really is. More than once I had to go find an ATM because I was just like, oh, God. Got to get all these things.
Holy moly!
Luckily, my wife is very, very understanding, and she knows that I love collecting games, and she's also on the lookout. So
yeah, I'm very lucky in that regard too. My wife is very very understanding about video game collecting and stuff. Blessedly so. I'd be in trouble if it weren't for that. We one of the things that is kind of a bummer about Snowboard Kids is that it's not really a game that, it's not on NSO or anything like that yet. Mm-hmm. I mean, now that I've said that, I'm sure Nintendo's going to announce that like tomorrow.
Good. Let's work the universe against them. Yeah,
I'll take it. I'll take it at this point. I
think that happened with Pikmin 3. I was like, man, when are they going to make Pikmin 3 for the Switch? And it was like the next day they were like, Pikmin 3 comes. I'm like, sweet.
Hey. I'll take it.
Yeah,
that has happened a couple of times. I've had a little like weird psychic energy moment a few times before.
Yeah,
but
I mean, listen, we're recording this right before the Game Awards.
Yeah, hey.
So who knows? Snowboard Kids 3.
Yeah, there's all the rumblings of a Chrono Cross remaster or whatever. Maybe it's actually the wires got crossed somewhere. It's actually Snowboard Kids 3. That's what it is.
It's Snowboard Kids 3 featuring the cast of Chrono Cross on snowboards.
Gosh, I would totally take that. That would be amazing. That's game of the year. That's game of the year right there.
Absolutely.
But it's not the easiest game in the world to play. You got to play it on like original hardware. I don't even know that it was ever even on Virtual Console, I don't think.
It was not. No.
Oh my goodness.
And it's funny because when I was putting together my book about the 101, best video games to play as a kid, and I told the publisher, like, listen, I'm not going to say specific games. I'm going to tell you series because I don't want to tell you, go play Madden 2015 and then, it's 2021 now. It doesn't make sense. So I'm going to tell you series. And, Snowboard Kids was on my short list of games that I love and I think kids would enjoy, but its accessibility is so, bad that I was like, I really can't include it. I can't tell kids, hey, this is a game that's so good and you should go play it if you can find an old Nintendo 64 and, have $60. So, as much as it pained me, that was one that I just felt that I needed to leave off.
Oh,
But and because of those reasons,
so unfortunate. There are certain games, and I don't know what kind of, like, I don't know if it's Atlas who has the rights or what kind of licensing nonsense is involved with that, but man, it's like the perfect candidate for something like NSO. Like, people got really bummed out. I think a lot of people, when it comes to NSO, are like, why haven't they put Chrono Trigger on here or whatever? And look, I would love that too. But I also love it when kind of weird or underappreciated games get the limelight on NSO.
right.
And it would be such a rejuvenating moment for Snowboard Kids to pop up on there. And there's so many people who don't even know what it is. And it would just be so cool for them to really roll out the red carpet. Here's Snowboard Kids 1 or 2 or both on NSO, and you can all play it. And online, are you kidding me? That'd be great.
Oh man, I'd freak out. Yeah, no, that'd be great. And I feel like it has a shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like one of those games, as far as I know, that's like bogged down with like legal problems due to music or due to, who holds the IP rights. Like, I think it's okay. I just don't think that it's, a top priority
Right.
for them to pull it on there. But Nintendo being Nintendo, they're going to burn through some, pretty popular games, and then they're going to start throwing us some of the wilder ones. And, I think Snowboard Kids is way more deserving than Glover
Sure.
or Gex 64.
Buck Bumble,
but-
yeah,
yeah, which are fantastic games, but maybe not on the same level as Snowboard Kids in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
I agree. I would love to see it get another shot. And, short of a proper Snowboard Kids 3, which, as much as I love it, it's probably not the kind of thing that makes a ton of business sense to release like a new
No.
AAA Snowboard Kids 3. So I understand, but if nothing else, just at least give it to us on NSO, because I would love for people to get the opportunity to play this. So I do have a community question from community member Eric Plunk, who asks, in the pantheon of snowboard and snowboard adjacent games, how does Snowboard Kids hold up against the likes of 1080, SSX, Kirby's Air Ride, and the like? What does the game do better or worse comparatively?
I would say that, in my opinion, I think SSX Tricky is my favorite snowboarding, extreme sports,
Sure.
like over the top game of all time. Realistically, well, I guess Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is also another game that I really love a lot. It's not snowboarding, but it is extreme sports, and obviously it gets a little, unrealistic depending on what part of the game you're playing. But I think Snowboard Kids really nails that, line that is like goofy arcade racer,
Right.
but it's an extreme sport. You know what I mean? They have the right vibe going, I guess. And you talked about this before: the setting, the characters, the mechanics involved, and just everything. It's kind of like an overwhelming, sense of color and sound and everything coming at you. So I just think that they pulled off the arcade version of snowboarding better than any game has before or since.
Arcade is a really good word for it, because you're right. I guess I hadn't put those puzzle pieces together before. It does feel like a total arcade game in a way that some of its contemporaries don't. It almost like it's like a cruising game a little bit,
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's got these big set pieces and a lot of stuff going on in the courses, and it's wild and it's over the top, and it's and it's got strategy and stuff like this, and it's it may not be as flashy as something like an SSX Tricky or something, but it's also, those games are
Right.
so wildly different. They have different goals
Yeah.
in mind.
Yeah, and I mean the tricks involved in Snowboard Kids are like super simple. It's
Right.
it's mostly just like do a backflip, do a spin. You know what I mean? And aside from that, they could have gone bigger with it, which I think they did in the DS version. But yeah, those first two games, I mean, I feel like they have really solid handling. It feels like something that should be like actually in an arcade.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Hey, anybody who's out there, make us a Snowboard Kids arcade cabinet.
Oh my gosh! If somebody wants to do that, one of my friends, Jonathan Holmes, just had somebody make him like a Rhythm Heaven arcade cabinet that was like custom built and like the original Rhythm Tengoku, but it had like some custom sprite work done that the fan had done. I was like, do that for me, man. Where's my awesome arcade cabinet making friend out there?
Man.
You know.
I mean, somebody there's all sorts of multi-cades out there. People could probably just throw the ROM onto it and play it. It wouldn't be that hard to do. I've never gotten to play it with a joystick.
That'd be sick. If it does feel like the kind of game that you could like go into an arcade and play. And I just, again, I want more people to be able to experience it. I do feel like just for, just to do our due diligence, we should talk about the DS game a little bit, because it is kind of where I think they lost the plot a little bit with the series. Not because it was a total, I don't want to say a step back, even though it kind of was a step back mechanically. But I think it just completely, the things that we've talked about that make Snowboard Kids special, the characters, the style, and stuff like this, was a little bit lost as they went to the DS, and they kind of made Snowboard Kids just this, like, they just kind of looked like traditional anime kids, like,
right?
It wasn't as over the top.
Like they came out of like Shonen Jump or something.
Right.
That's almost what they looked like. Yeah. And I mean, I understand why they kind of gravitated towards that style and wanted to do the revamp. But if you're gonna do something like that, then you need to make sure that the gameplay, the fun aspects that people loved from the first two games are still intact. And I feel like they kind of did not do that.
Yeah.
I mean, by all means, it's just kind of like, it's not a bad game, but it's not a good game. It's just kind of mediocre.
It feels like they took Snowboard Kids and they were like, let's try to make Snowboard Kids something that is like commercially successful, or something that appeals to the cast the widest net, I suppose, because they all of a sudden kind of abandoned the art style that we all know and love from Snowboard Kids, made it like you said, kind of a Shonen Jump thing. It's just not as crazy. They made it's called SBK now, kind of like calling SSX to mind Kids a little bit. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. It's funny because they almost tried to make it like more extreme and like, a little edgier.
Right.
But somehow it ended up having less personality than like, goofy kids running around throwing rocks at each other.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It didn't quite work out. I still bought it. I still have it. But
yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate, but and it is. I would love to see them like kind of go back to the roots with it if they were to do like a Snowboard Kids 3, like a proper Snowboard Kids 3 in this magical dream scenario. I hope they go back to the roots with it. And I even am surprised that nobody is really, to my knowledge, and maybe you can correct me on this, but I don't think that anybody's even tried to. We've kind of gotten accustomed to like the indie game scene kind of doing the Thanos fine, I'll do it myself thing. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
If you're not going to make Snowboard Kids 3, I'll just make it. But I don't even think we've really seen anything even similar, like an indie game facsimile.
No.
So.
No. I was actually thinking about that earlier when you were talking about it. No one's took a crack at it. No one's made like, shredding children or anything. I'm trying to think of a good Snowboard Kids, thing that wouldn't get you
shredding
sued.
Children. That sounds great to me.
That sounds bad. Yeah, that sounds like a haunted house you go into. Snowboard children, snowboard kiddos. Yeah,
you could go a million different ways with it. I mean,
yeah.
But I am surprised that nobody's like taken a stab at that. And I even like the art style. I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm a big proponent. Like, I actually love the way N64 games look in their kind of like blocky, polygonal, like ugliness. I find something kind of beautiful about that. I would love it so much if like an indie game dev just made a game that even just looks exactly like Snowboard Kids 2, just make it their own thing. That would make me so happy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Gosh. We just need to make it, I guess.
We're just gonna have to do it. I have no problems. I can, get some designs whipped up here.
Yeah, go ahead and whip up some designs.
How hard could it be?
Game design's easy, right? We could do, lazy devs. Yeah. Awesome. Well, man, Ben, it's been such a good time talking to you about this. I relish the opportunity to talk Snowboard Kids. I never get to talk about Snowboard Kids, so this has been a real treat. I really appreciate it. Did you have any kind of like final thoughts on the series before we wrap up?
No, not really. I mean, you kind of covered everything that I wanted to say. I mean,
good.
I hope it comes to Nintendo Switch Online. I hope that someday it gets a sequel, or, I mean, there are people out there with the capacity to make a fun snowboarding game. I think ever since kind of like the early thousands, the amount of, kind of extreme sports games has kind of fallen off, be that realistic ones or, goofy ones, especially goofy ones. So the world needs more games like Snowboard Kids, especially because it's not as accessible as it used to be.
Mm-hmm. We need more goofiness. We need more things that are just fun for the sake of being fun. We need more things that don't care if they get too crazy. Things that are just like totally happy to throw caution to the wind and throw frying pans and stones at each other and just and just have fun racing down in space or whatever. Like, who cares? Mm-hmm. Why not? Sure, let's do it.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I mean, we've been talking so much about how great Snowboard Kids is, but it's not without its flaws. There's some clunky controls, and there's some issues with some courses are not the best designed, but overall it's a really fun game. And a lot of people look back on the games they loved as kids with rose-tinted glasses and say like, "Oh, it was so great," and they pick it up as an adult and they say, "Well, wow, this really doesn't hold up," right? Yeah. But every time I go back to Snowboard Kids, 1 or 2, I always have a good time. Do I get frustrated at some point? Probably, but I still jump in line for another race.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. Well, Ben, kind of point people in your direction. How can they follow you and keep up with everything you're doing?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, which is where I do most of my social media meddling, and that is at Super Bentendo, which is just like Nintendo, but with Ben at the front. Let's see. On Instagram and TikTok, I'm Bertoli64 for obvious reasons. That's with one L in Bertoli. And be on the lookout in early 2022 for a big article that I've been working on for Polygon.
Oh, cool.
That I actually thought was going to go live, but it has to do with the developer, and they've been pushing things back. And so, it's been a long time coming, and I'm excited for people to see it. It's kind of silly, but it's a fun inside look.
Oh, yeah. We'll definitely be on the lookout for that. I'm looking forward to that. And we'll obviously links to everything Ben will be in the episode description. Definitely encourage you to follow him. Check out Memory Card. Just a great podcast. I've got to get Dustin on here one of these days. I really do. I've got to find a game to reach out to him about. But anyway, folks, I appreciate you all. Go out there, play Snowboard Kids if you can. Create what you want to create. And thank you for helping me keep Nintendo weird. Bye.
See ya.
Okay, cool. Little post-credit stinger. We'll treat this like it's a Marvel movie, all right? Little post-credit stinger. Okay, guys, look, I know his name's not Dustin. I misspoke. I've been a fan of his for a long time, and I recently saw him on GVG, Good Vibes Gaming. I know his name's not Dustin. I misspoke. My mistake. Hopefully he doesn't take offense to that. Could have edited it out. I chose not to. After we got done recording, Ben was like, hang on, his name's not Dustin, right? And I was like, oh gosh, yeah, I knew that. I just completely... Every time, I've always read his Twitter handle, which is PushDustIn, and it's always just in my mind, I've always said PushDustin. I don't know. Anyway, guys, I thank you all so much for dealing with my neurosis and everything and my weirdness. I love and appreciate you all so much. I will see you in the new year. I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. And I'll see you in the new year for some more Keep Nintendo Weird. Maybe with some new stuff coming. I don't know. Keep an ear out. Thanks, guys. Bye. For real this time.